Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Nitreg from nitreg.com. I have a really interesting post for you guys today, and I think you guys would really love this. This is a project of mine that's kind of in the works. It's something that you guys should be doing with your own game, and I highly recommend it. This is how you can analyze your own game and get really good at poker really fast. So essentially, what I did was made hand charts for myself of the hands that are profitable for me. Based on positions, blah blah blah, all that sort of thing. For most of my poker career, I've been a four-ring player, but since I made since Black Friday and made the switch over to minted poker, I've had to make a big change to play six max and four max, and that's obviously because minted poker rarely runs four-ring games. So four max is a different story, and that's a separate analysis that I'll have to do. But I organized my Hold'em Manager hand histories from minted since July by six max stats, and it's been very very interesting. I have over 200,000 hands, and it's told me quite a bit about my game and what I need to improve on, what is profitable for me, what's not profitable, and also how profitable or unprofitable stuff is. And this is stuff that you should be doing as well. So the ranges that I'm going to be going over today are hand ranges for when I open raise. Now, if anyone limps in or anything like that, that's not me open raising, because that would be me ISO raising, or it's not me three betting. This isn't PFR equals true. That would be me if I three bet, if I ISO raised, if I opened, all sorts of stuff. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is if the action comes to me and no one's acted before me, no one's done anything but folds, then if I come in for a raise, that's the type of hands that I'm looking at right now. So essentially, if everyone folds around to you, you're on the button and you open, that would be included. So that's kind of the hands that I'm talking about here. So we're talking about open raising ranges. So now, I used to play very very loose four ring stats back in like 2009, early 2010. I was playing really insane, something like 22-16 or something for four ring, or 22-17, something like that. It was absolutely insane, like really really crazy loose aggressive stats. And then I did a lot of restructuring to my game and became very very tight. Hence my name Nitreg. It was actually my nickname Nitreg actually came from just sarcasm, because I was so loose pre-flop and pretty fairly aggressive post-flop in a lot of spots. But I went through a big transitional phase where I became very, very nitty, and post-flop that affected me a little bit. I came a little more loose passive, and there was an adjustment period here and there. But ultimately, I settled kind of like on a sweet spot for me for four-ring. But ever since that point, Black Friday happened, and I all of a sudden I'm thrown into a completely new game of six max, and I have no idea where my stats were supposed to be at or what's what. So I just started playing how I felt I should be playing, and it's been hard because it's I can't like mass multi-table like I was on Poker Stars, so it takes forever to get these hands. The sites play differently, so like the merge network that I was playing on for a while, it plays differently than minted. So these hand charts aren't necessarily that accurate necessarily from site to site. It's just for minted for six max. I feel like this is what's profitable. So this is something that you should be doing not only every single stake you play at, but every single site, every single type of game, whether it's six max, four ring, I guess heads up, anything like that. Kind of figure out like an optimal sweet spot, like a standard way to play a hand. That's assuming that you're at a brand new table and you have no idea who people are. Obviously, if you get in spots where you notice people are loose, or they're tight, or they three bet too much, or they check fold too much out of position post flop, and just C bets work on them. There's obviously so many different factors that will change your decisions on what to raise and what to fold, and what to three bet, what to call, all sorts of stuff like that. Those are all theoretically good possible sound solutions for adjusting your standard game. But this hand range is a very, very good standard. It's really good for learning players that just kind of want to get a basic structure down. I know there's a lot of students of mine who are just kind of picking up poker for the first time in a serious matter. Before they were more just kind of like having fun or whatever. But now they want to be more serious, and it's really hard to just be like, okay, what's profitable and what's not, and it. Some people, people give really good guesses just based off what they think, and they're not necessarily wrong because they don't really have stats to go by. But I felt that I should come out with this because I think it'll help structure their thinking a lot, and it helped structure my thinking a lot as well. Like there was a lot of things that I thought were profitable that just sounded like it would be profitable, sounded right. I've been doing it for years, but I looked at it and apparently it's not profitable. And also vice versa too. There's things that I thought weren't that profitable, but apparently are profitable. But ultimately, the conclusions come down to that you have to be a giant nit, or at least I have to be a giant nit when playing on the Minted network, or I'm sorry, Everleaf network on Minted Poker. So. If you haven't checked out Minted Poker, check out my video on Minted Poker, but we'll go ahead and get started on this hand range analysis. So this first hand chart here is short-handed early position open. So that's 6 max. It's not going to be 4 max. I'll save 4 max for another time. But early position, these are all the hands that were profitable, and I was really surprised that deuces through fours weren't profitable. I don't know why. I mean, the reasons could be numerous. It could be that they're slightly profitable, but since rake is so high on Minted that they're not profitable. It could be because I really suck post flop, which definitely could be true in a lot of these hands. I come from a 4-ring background where you just play nitty and you can make money. So 6 max was a big transition for me. This is 200,000 hands, so I've learned a lot since then, but there's still probably a lot of leaks in there for post flop since I have a wider range. So that's definitely a factor. Deuces through fours might be profitable for a lot of other people. Apparently they're not for me. I would stick with them out of your range to begin with. You're going to get mostly tough situations when you have like low pocket pairs raising early position. I think the biggest reason for me though is because it's on Minted Poker. Like I'll raise under the gun and like 3 people will call me and I'll be out of position, and if I don't hit sets I just have to check fold. Now that being said, I'm not sure why 5s would be profitable but 4s wouldn't. They seem more or less like the same hand. So I'm not 100% sure why this is. I can kind of guess and tweak around with why, but as for now, just stats alone, I know that deuces through fours aren't profitable to open under the gun. I guess early position for 6 max is just under the gun. Another thing that's really not profitable that I was looking at and I was really surprised with was like ace 10 suited, ace jack suited. Some other hands like king jack suited, I would open up under the gun, stuff like that. They weren't really that profitable for me, and I was very surprised with that. I felt that, especially on a site like Minted Poker, when you're playing with so many loose passive type players, it just seems like opening with big Broadway suited hands will be so good because you can hit something that's close to the nuts when it's a straight or a flush that you hit, and also something that's close to a nuts when you hit top pair. I think this really plays to the truth that position really matters, and skill advantage really isn't that big of a deal. I think skill advantage is a good thing. It will make, for some people could play deuces out of position because, it's profitable for them because they have a better skill advantage or whatever. Or, I might be able to play king queen suited out of position because my skill advantage might be slightly better than someone else's. So there's a little bit of skill advantage involved with adjusting these ranges, but they're really not that big. It's just more of that like tipping point where that skill advantage kind of makes that difference. So that I don't think that is that big of a difference. But when it comes to positional advantage, it doesn't matter if I have something strong like ace 10 suited. If there's going to be 3 people behind me calling and they're not folding post flop, I'm just going to have to smash boards to be able to get lots of money and be profitable. So I don't know. I think part of it has to do with the site that I'm playing at, and the other part just has to do with playing dominated hands out of position just sucks. Another thing that I was thinking of is maybe I get too committed with hands. Like at four ring, you play with such a tight range. So if you have like ace king or ace queen, you just hit top pair and value bet. If I open up something like ace jack or ace 10 under the gun and get called, by two fish, and then I just start barreling down top pair, that might actually be bad in some spots because they might have me out kicked. If it's like an ace x board, or I'm just out of position. I could be barreling into them for value with top pair, and they'll have two pair and just like call down and then min raise me on the river or something goofy. It's really hard playing out of position, and also I guess post flop skill might take it has me questioning my post flop abilities somehow. I through all these analyses. I've kind of noticed that I will overplay some hands. It's kind of funny. Like as we go on, I'll be like really profitable with hands like ace 4 suited and like ace 10 suited, but something like ace 8 suited or ace 9 suited I'm not profitable at, just because I think what it is I like ace deuce suited is very easy. If I hit top pair, I can get some value, but I'm not really committed to it. And ace queen suited is really easy because I just value bet until someone raises. But if I have ace nine suited, it's like one of those in between spots, and I don't really know if it's more for value or whatever. So I think that skill and being able to assess situations is a huge part of your range construction. Because if you're more prone to making mistakes post flop with certain hands, you should just avoid them altogether pre-flop and stick out of this situation. So for me, these were the profitable ranges for me, and also note that I did edit them, just slightly on a couple of these pictures, just because I think that there's some things that will be profitable for me just because they're like little nuances that I do, but they're probably not profitable for other people. And there's other stuff that aren't really profitable for me that much, but I'm pretty sure they're profitable for other people. So I altered it just slightly. So like 7.2% under the gun opening range. I might have edited it by like 7 to 7.2 or something. It's like something that's really just small. It's not that big of a deal, but this is essentially what you should be playing under the gun. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. This is middle position. Middle position, you should be opening up all the pairs. Pretty much every single suited Broadway and every single ace X Broadway. And the only offsuit Broadway that you should open is King Queen offsuit. This is another one of those ones that I was very surprised with. I thought for sure stuff like King Jack offsuit, King 10 offsuit, Queen Jack offsuit, I thought that those were profitable. I was very surprised that they're not. Again, I might just suck post flop, so it might be profitable for some people. I think some people will incorporate stuff like ace 2 or ace 5 suited in their range or something like that, but that kind of goes along with a different style of play. At minted poker, you're gonna raise and get called all over. It's like playing live poker. There's a bunch of loose passives, and it's a very value oriented game. If I was playing, say, like 100 or 200 NL on PokerStars, where I knew that a lot of the people at the table were just gonna, fold to C bets, certain spots, or they're gonna play a very tight, solid game. I might start opening up a couple hands that are a little wider. Not only do you want to like balance your range in some areas against some opponents, but if you have more fold equity, you want hands that you could open up. Might not be necessarily profitable pre-flop or on the flop, but you have good barreling potential, and when you hit hands, you have the nuts, and you can get huge hands. So that's something also to consider. These hand charts are literally just micro stakes, grinding against people who are just like literally limp calling, looking at their hands and not thinking about anything else at the table except what hand they have. Very level 1 poker players. So obviously I'm not really bluffing that much, or I shouldn't be. Obviously I do try to bluff fish, and that's why I lose with a couple of hands. But for the most part, this is a very value-oriented game, and so just stick with a very tight range. Stick with pairs, made hands. Stick with suited broadways and king queen offsuit and ace 10, ace jack, ace queen offsuit. You can't really go wrong with that range. It's 11.2% of your hand range. So essentially, I'm teaching you guys to be giant nits, giant nit rigs when you're out of position, and there's good logic to that. When you're out of position, it sucks. You get owns, even if players don't really know what they're doing. If they're in position on you, they're gonna make your life hell, and you're not gonna be able to get extra bets out of them, and you're gonna get in some weird spots where they've seen you act, and so now they have a turn to act, and you're not sure if they're betting because they're bluffing or they're value betting or what. So, it's not really good to play out of position. So just play tight. People probably aren't really going to notice, to be honest with you. So here's one of those interesting ones. I don't know, maybe some of you guys are colorblind or something, but ace 2 suited is a hand you would open here on the cutoff. For some reason, it looks purple, while the other colors here are like pink or peach color. So it might be a little hard for some people to see, but I just want to let you guys know that ace deuce through ace 5 are hands that we open. This is one of those hand charts that I was talking about, like ace deuce through ace 5 is an open, but ace 6 and ace 7 aren't, but then ace 8 through aces are an open. So, there's a little gap in there where it's not very profitable. I think a lot of it has to do with you're just going to be outkicked a lot when you have like ace deuce through ace 7. But the good thing about ace deuce through ace 5 is that you can hit stuff like you can hit wheels, straights. If you don't really hit the hand that hard, you don't always feel like you need to bet. Like, whereas if you have ace 7 suited, you might feel compelled to bet more often than you should. It's just one of those weird things. It's something that I would make theories on, and play differently and kind of test things out and see what's best for you. That being said, ace 7 and ace 6 aren't really like that losing of hands. So if you feel like you would probably still be profitable, you could try it out over the long run. But if it's negative EV, it's negative EV. So don't play it. Again, all these hands seem fairly standard for the most part, like pairs. In the cutoff, we're going to be playing like 22% of our range. So it's like pairs, broadways, any two broadways, suited, a lot of suited aces, and we're going to have some suited connectors, suited one pairs. I'm really surprised that 9-7 suited is a hand that's profitable, but 5-6 suited isn't. That was kind of interesting for me. Also, like king 9 suited wasn't profitable. I thought for sure king 9 suited would be profitable. Those are definitely hands that I open, but now I'm not going to because I know that it's unprofitable. I think before this I was opening maybe 25% in the cutoff, but now I know that 22% is more likely to be a better result. It's kind of funny when you have this giant hand range. I could literally set up the parameters how I want it, and I'll set it up for this exact situation with all hands in my range. How profitable is it? And I press the reports tab in Hold'em Manager 1 or 2, and it shows me like how much I've won. And then I say, okay, well, since I've done this analysis, let me go ahead and take out hands that I was losing with, like hands that I know are bad now. So I'm taking out 5-6 suited, I'm taking out king 9 suited, a couple of other hands. I literally go into Hold'em Manager reports, go to the filters, and type in this exact hand range, and only this hand range, and then I press go, and it increased my win rate by quite a bit. So, well, not a lot, but it was like, I don't even know percentage wise, but it was a decent solid amount. Like it was enough to be where you'd be really happy with getting that big pay increase. So I think that it's very important to stick true to a hand range that's very profitable. Obviously, if you get in situations that change your hand range. You should. So, for example, if there's a giant fish in the big blind and everyone else is in nit, then maybe you can open like king nine suited and try to take advantage of the post flop. Or let's say there's a lot of there's like two three betters behind you. One is in the button, one's in the big blind, and you have like 6 7 suited. You should probably just fold that. Just kind of stuff like that. It's something that you should really think about and take into consideration. But more or less, micro stakes is pretty straightforward. Little adjustments here and there that you should be making, but a hand chart really isn't that bad of an idea when you're playing a micro stakes, especially the lower end of the micro stakes where there's not really competent regs that are thinking about other people's ranges and stuff. So this is the cutoff. What was profitable in the cutoff? So it's looking a little bit better. We're at 22%. 22% range that we're opening. Then we go onto the button, and this is more like it. Like this is where we're going to get a lot of action in. We're going to put in 40% of our hand range. Any pair, any ace, broadways, lots of suited connectors, lots of suited one gappers, a couple of suited two gappers, suited kings, a couple of suited queens. A couple of offsuit stuff was profitable as well. Like again, like King 8 offsuit, I was kind of surprised that that's profitable. It just seems like one of those hands that are just so disconnected that it wouldn't really be profitable. But, I'm not really sure if it's just profitable in general or if it's profitable because I only opened those hands when I was against nits or something. So I'm not really sure about that. Obviously, if you're playing against two nits in the blinds and you're on the button, and let's say they fold to steals like 90% or 85% or whatever, you could probably open up literally any two cards. Just open like min raise it or 2.5x or whatever, and probably any of these cards are profitable. But it's really interesting to see what cards were profitable in the long run, encompassing all players that I play against. So this is kind of the range for that, and this I was really surprised. Like some hands. Some hands that I put in were very profitable, like even in the cutoff, like really profitable in the cutoff, but when it got to the button, they weren't profitable. So that kind of tells me that they are profitable hands in general. I'm just playing them wrong. I'm trying to remember a couple of hands like that. I think one of them might have been something like it was like a suited one gapper or a suited connector or something. So. And the cutoff, it's a really good spot to open some of those hands sometimes, and pick up a lot of blinds and post flop. It's pretty easy to play. You can see bet and barrel sometimes, but you don't have to feel too committed to hands if you hit top pair or even a middle pair. But then all of a sudden on the button, I'm like losing money somehow. It doesn't really make sense because now I'm in position with a suited connector, so it seems like it'd be really easy to play. But maybe it's just one of those things where I hit a pair and I get kind of paranoid that oh well, I'm in a stealing spot and they're in a re-stealing spot, so maybe they they know this and I should call down lighter. Maybe something like that's going on. I'm not 100% sure. I definitely think that I need to improve my post flop game. 100% believe that. I think that's probably my biggest weakness right now. That and figuring out 3-betting 100%. I feel like I'm a little rusty with that. I used to be pretty good with that, but since Black Friday, playing a lot more micro stakes, you can't really get over like $1,000 off of minted poker right now. Hopefully that changes. So obviously, like I'm just kind of like grinding micros, like up to 50 NL or whatever. I don't know. It's kind of some of it's kind of hard. Like I haven't really, you don't really 3-bet that much. So when you do 3-bet, you're just gonna stick with like huge pocket pairs and ace king and stuff. So now I'm pretty sure if I go into a game full of competent players, it's gonna be very hard to remember all these adjustments that I made and stuff like that. So that's something that I should probably refresh on. If I decide to travel or something and play in Canada or Europe or something like that, I play back in Poker Stars. But I mean, for now, like if you're playing the micro stakes, you don't really have to worry too much about that. Just stick to a very, very tight range, and don't really 3-bet too much unless it's for like really strong value. And other than that, like I guess the other big thing is just don't overplay your hands. Like if you have king six suited, don't like go nuts for three. Don't start like barreling people off with top pairs or whatever. It's not that strong. You gotta, with all these hands come a whole range of possibilities post flop, and some of them are different based on the types of hands. So like if you have deuces, it's gonna be very bluff oriented post flop. You're gonna see bet as a bluff a lot, but the times that you do hit, you're gonna want to hope to get paid off. And it relies a lot on stealing pre-flop. King six suited relies a lot on stealing pre-flop, and then if not, it's kind of the same as deuces, where you can c-bet, and then you can possibly barrel a couple of times if you have like the second nut flush draw or something. But it's just one of those hands. Like maybe king deuce suited is profitable in the long run, but if you're on minted poker and no one ever folds to c-bets or double barreling or anything like that, then maybe king two suited isn't profitable because you don't have all those bluffing potential in your range. So it's just really interesting to check out your range and what's profitable, what's not. I highly recommend that you guys go into your database. Now remember, you have to have lots of hands, and I'm like, for me, I had 200,000 hands, and I don't think that was enough. So the more the better. If it's over 100,000, I think that you could do a pretty general analysis of what's up. But I would highly recommend that you have over 500,000, if not over a million. I think once you start getting into a couple of millions, then you can get a much better idea of what's happening. But a couple of million hands takes a few years, and people's games evolve over the course of 2 years or 3 years, whatever. So it's always kind of hard to do this sort of thing. But this for me, this is since July more or less. So I've improved my game a lot, but there's a lot of stuff that is kind of eye opening for me, and it basically just hammers home for me to stay tight pre-flop and out of position, and then you can start loosening up in position. But when you do open up in position and realize that post flop you don't have to go crazy with your hands, a lot of your pre-flop games on the button and cutoff are going to be stealing the blinds and c-betting maybe once, maybe twice, and then going for value here and there, but don't get too committed to hands. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. So I hope that this video and post is very interesting for you guys, very interesting for me. I'm definitely going to be starting to construct my ranges a little bit differently here and there. Depends on your villains, obviously. Keep mindful of like what's going on in the hand, what's important to know. Like, is this guy tight? Is he loose? Does he 3-bet too much? Does he fold too much to c-bets, etc., etc.? Just always to be thinking about these things, as that will adjust your range. Your range will flex and bend. I just hope that you guys get a very standard way of playing games, your game down. That way you guys can have a solid set of hands that are instantly making money. And then if you guys come up with a couple of different reasons to adjust that, you can go ahead and adjust that, but you have to know what you're adjusting before you can start adjusting. So you have to have that standard game that you can adjust. You can't just start like opening up random hands and thinking that they're profitable, but they might not be, and it just gets too hard, and you're going to be losing yourself money in the long run. Alright guys, so I hope you guys like this. This is Nitreg from nitreg.com. Take care.